Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so incredibly excited to share today's topic with you because we are looking at a truly visionary intersection of artificial intelligence, global spatial data, and the future of our built environment. Every single year, extreme weather events test the very limits of our global infrastructure, causing literally billions in damage. But how do we actually prepare for that programmatically? How do we build resilience before the disaster even strikes? Well, today, we are exploring OmniRisk. It's a platform that is fundamentally changing how we protect our communities by making climate risk totally machine-readable. Let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into this. Wei Liu, an AI innovator based in Hamilton, New Zealand, and the brilliant architect behind OmniRisk, recently summed up our current crisis with a pretty stark reality. He said, "Today, uninsurable is becoming a dangerously common word." And honestly, that hit the nail on the head. Climate risk isn't just an environmental talking point anymore. It's a strict, uncompromising design obligation for literally any new infrastructure. Yet, the construction, insurance, and real estate sectors they're kind of flying blind at the conceptual stage. As Wei points out, we simply cannot build physical resilience against threats that we can't accurately and easily model. And that is the exact friction point OmniRisk was built to solve.
Historically, the whole industry has faced this massive bottleneck. Imagine you're an ESG compliance manager for a major global fund. In the old way of doing things, auditing the physical climate risk of hundreds of buildings meant hiring manual GIS consultants, waiting weeks for the data, and paying tens of thousands of dollars just to deal with formatting errors. It was agonizingly slow. But reality has shifted, hasn't it? Massive new disclosure regulations like the TCFD and the European Union CSRD are now live. They mandate these urgent double materiality audits, which basically means you have to prove both how your company impacts the climate and exactly how the climate will physically and financially impact your specific assets. Relying on slow, manual spreadsheets when you desperately need high-resolution, property line data, that's a guaranteed path to failing a compliance audit.
So what's the solution? Enter OmniRisk. This isn't just another pretty dashboard with a few charts. It is a high-speed web platform and API acting as a central engine for physical resilience. It translates incredibly complex, fragmented global hazard models into instant, actionable spatial intelligence. We are talking about a complete paradigm shift for the industry. Instead of the slow, retrospective risk recovery mindset, we are moving to instant, automated, and proactive physical resilience. Real estate developers can now programmatically evaluate massive portfolios of physical assets in absolute seconds. It's a real game changer.
To actually pull this off accurately, OmniRisk evaluates every single coordinate against a comprehensive 10-factor climate hazard matrix. We are talking about incredibly deep, granular data here, from earthquake peak ground acceleration and pluvial flooding, all the way to rainfall landslides, seismic landslides, cyclone winds, droughts, tsunamis, coastal storm surges, wildfires, and extreme heat, the whole shebang. But what makes this so incredibly powerful is that the system concurrently queries massive, standardized global databases. It's pulling from the UN's Global Infrastructure Risk Model and NASA's GEOS-5 databases instantly. It drills right down to the specific property parcel, and it doesn't without sacrificing an ounce of performance. Now, what's really interesting about this is the architecture making all this speed possible. The automated workflow is completely frictionless. Here's how it works. Step 1, you just input the property coordinates. Step 2, the backend engine fires off high-performance spatial KD tree queries on GeoTIFFs. Think of it like a lightning-fast search engine for layered maps. Step 3, the platform takes that exact data payload and queries Google's Gemini 2.5 Flash AI to actually draft location-specific hazard summaries and mitigation logic. And finally, Step 4, the system's Wheezy print engine compiles a beautifully styled boardroom-ready A4 PDF report. All of this happens in under 30 seconds. No way, right? But even better, and I've got to geek out on this for a second, the API is structured specifically for the automated future. It's ready to be instantly ingested by autonomous AI agents and internal business intelligence dashboards to stress test entire portfolios.
Of course, building true resilience means you have to look forward. OmniRisk uses the IPCC-adopted Shared Socioeconomic Pathways, the SSPs, for its scenario modeling. Because, let's face it, a building you acquire today might stand for 50 or even 100 years, so traditional historical audits just don't cut it anymore. The platform models two distinct futures side by side. On one hand, you have the SSP 1.2.6 scenario, which is the optimistic, low-emissions, Paris-aligned baseline. On the other hand, you have the SSP 5.8.5 scenario, which is the business-as-usual, high-emissions pathway used for worst-case stress testing. Developers can use this to project risk indices across both 2050 and 2100 timelines. It perfectly brackets the full range of potential climate futures, allowing teams to make hard, data-driven decisions before they ever even sign an acquisition contract.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate value of the platform. OmniRisk doesn't just hand you raw hazard data and, wish you the best of luck. It instantly translates a standardized 1 to 5 risk scale into actionable, site-specific civil engineering defenses for any Class 3 or higher risk. If the system detects a high-risk trigger for extreme heat, the automated logic instantly recommends applying high SRI cool roofing. If pluvial flooding risk escalates, it recommends raised electrical installations and French drains. For earthquake risk, it suggests moment-resisting frames. It literally bridges that massive gap between raw spatial data and practical structural adaptation in seconds.
So how are people reacting? Well, the market response to this level of automation has been nothing short of incredible. Let's look at the traction. In just a single 7-day period recently, the platform served over 21 gigabytes of dynamic climate hazard data. Now, to put that into perspective, 21 gigabytes of dense, localized spatial text data is astronomically huge. We're not talking about streaming a high-def video here. This represents thousands upon thousands of highly complex mathematical queries firing off simultaneously. The demand for programmatic, instant climate intelligence is absolutely massive. And during that exact same 7-day window, the platform handled more than 4,160 requests. And to be totally clear, in the context of web architecture with a near-zero cache rate, these aren't just static page views we're talking about. These are heavy, unique, and highly dynamic spatial queries being run by real users actively evaluating specific coordinates all around the globe.
Those requests were actually generated by over 200 unique visitors. We are seeing incredible early adoption from data scientists, risk assessors, and real estate developers everywhere, from New Zealand, where the platform was born, all the way to the US, Germany, and India. They're actively stress testing the platform right now, which absolutely proves that the industry is incredibly hungry to abandon the manual era once and for all and embrace a unified automated risk API.
Which brings us to the most critical question for anyone managing or investing in the built environment today. Are your physical assets prepared for a machine-readable, climate-resilient future? Because as regulatory frameworks tighten and the physical realities of our climate continue to shift, relying on the slow, manual ways of the past is no longer an option. Well, unless you're willing to risk your assets becoming completely uninsurable. OmniRisk shows us that the future of physical resilience is instant, automated, and deeply integrated into our digital workflows. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to ask yourself today, how is your organization programmatically protecting its future? See you next time.